Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're in here today because I wanted to continue talking about what you should look for when you are going to buy your goat. So last week we talked about sex-specific characteristics of mostly females. You're looking at their udders and their teats. Today I want to talk about things you look at when you're getting boys. Things that the boys have that the girls don't, that you absolutely need to be aware of, especially if you're going to breed or show, because these things do matter. Obviously, if you're just looking for a pet, then mostly you're just worried about the health of the goat, and if you're taking in a rescue, you might be deliberately taking in a goat that has health problems. But if you're going to breed or show, you definitely need to be on the lookout for these, and even if it's just a pet, make sure that the goat is healthy. So I'm going to talk about bucks, and I'm going to talk about wethers. So a buck is an uncastrated boy. Okay, a boy who has not been snipped. Whether or not you're going to castrate him once you buy him is irrelevant. At the moment you buy him, if he's not castrated, he is a buck. So a buck should have two symmetrical testicles. Okay, I know it sounds funny sometimes to talk about goat balls, but sometimes you have to, because you need to look and you need to feel them. I know it sounds weird and it makes people laugh, but it's an important thing to be aware of when you're buying a buck. So his testicles should feel smooth. There should not be any lumps. Lumps are a huge problem. They usually indicate a major health problem, so they should be smooth with no lumps. And they should feel fairly resilient, so there shouldn't be a lot of give, like they shouldn't be squashy. Okay, they shouldn't be squashy. So make sure they're fairly firm. If there's an excessive split separating the testicles at the apex of the scrotum, so right where the testicles meet the scrotum, if there's a really big gap, like more than an inch, that's unacceptable. If you are breeding or if you are showing that goat, don't buy that goat, because you're not going to be able to show it and you shouldn't breed it. A lot of the times, if you try and show a goat with an excessive split, so a lot of space between those two testicles, you will either get a lot of points deducted or you'll just get an automatic disqualification depending on where you're showing. So watch out for that. Also, when it comes to goats, size matters. Okay, I know with humans we like to say size doesn't matter. If you're a goat, size matters. So we're going to talk about the scrotum here. The greater the scrotal circumference, so the width around the scrotum at its widest point, the greater that circumference, the higher the libido of that buck, and he'll be more fertile. So that is really desirable. So the wider that scrotal circumference is, the more you want that goat if you're going to be breeding or showing. Okay, you want that goat. So most normal size goats, most full size goats, should have about 10 inches or a little bit, even a little bit more is good. If you're breeding boars, you're actually looking at 11.5 or 12 inches, depending on the association you're showing in. So you do want a fairly wide scrotal circumference. Okay, so you measure at that widest point of the scrotum. It's important. I know it sounds funny to talk about, and I know somebody's probably laughing. And it is funny. I mean, we're humans, we find these kind of things hilarious. But if you are looking to get into breeding or showing goats, this is something you're going to have to get comfortable with, because this is important. So let's move on and talk about wethers. Wethers are castrated boys. Still boys, but they've been snipped. Okay, so this is again assuming the goat has been castrated before you get him. You are buying a goat that has already been castrated. He is already a wether. Okay, because what you do afterwards is irrelevant to the buying process. So if the goat you're looking at, the goat you're interested in, is already castrated, you want to ask when that was done. And the when really matters. I know a lot of people want to castrate as early as they can. They'll band at like a week old, but you really want to make sure that it wasn't done before 1 month of age. Because what does castration do? It halts the development of a young male's urinary tract. That's not the intended consequence. You just want to make them not have babies. But when you castrate a very young goat, it does halt the development of the urinary tract and it affects adult penis size. Okay? Early castration, so before 1 month of age, can lead to something called water belly. This is where mineral crystals block that underdeveloped urethra and cause the bladder to burst. It's deadly. So a goat that was castrated before 1 month of age, so a lot of people like to do it at a week, that's too early. So if your goat was castrated before a month of age, their chances of water belly go up. Now, I know somebody's going to come in and say, well, I've been banding my goats at a week old for 40 years and they've never had water belly. Good. I'm so glad, because water belly sucks in goats. It is, once it starts, it is so, you need a vet to come out, and they're probably still going to not make it. Frankly, water belly is so deadly. So I'm glad that your goats have not had that happen. But it is a really high risk in goats that are castrated prior to 1 month of age. So when you're buying a goat, so you're not castrating this goat has already been castrated, you want to ask how old he was when it was done. If he was a week old, pass. Okay? He might be 4 or 5 months old now, but pass anyway, because he has an underdeveloped urethra. Absolutely he does. It may never cause a problem, but if you had to pick between a castrated goat that was done at 3 months old versus one that was done at a week old, I would go for the 3-month-old one, all things being equal. Just because the chances of you ending up with a goat who has water belly later on are reduced. Not eliminated. Any male goat can have water belly. It can happen, but it reduces the risk. So if you are buying an already castrated goat, please ask when that happened. Okay, because you do want to reduce the chance of you having to deal with water belly. So because of that particular risk, castration should wait until 1 month or later. I prefer to wait till about 3 months, but you certainly don't have to wait that long. It's just, to avoid having a problem later on. If you're buying, because we're talking about what to look for when you're buying your goats, you do want to ask when that was done, just to be sure it wasn't done a little bit too early. Anyway, that is about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. We will come back next week and talk a little bit more about buying your first goat. We'll see you tomorrow.